Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and I'm so happy you're here. Today we're doing some Christmas decorating, some Dollar Tree DIYs, a nightstand makeover, some hacks. There's just all kinds of stuff. So let's just jump right in. We're going to be doing our main bedroom and I'm showing you the before looks. And this is a room we've not really paid a lot of attention to, and usually the main bedrooms are the last ones to get decorated. So we're going to Christmasify it up, but I am showing you how it is before we get started. I'm planning to change it completely, but I don't want to spend a huge amount of money. So for the time being, it's just fine, and it's in the neutrals. And these barn doors, Michael J made these a while back when we first moved in about 5 years ago. And one hack I wanted to show you was if you have French doors and thought you couldn't put barn doors over them, have no fear because Michael J figured out how to do that. You do have to have room on either side of the French doors so that you can open the barn doors. But what he did was he put a hole in the back where the doorknob is so that when it's closed, you can just pull it out a little bit and put it right over that doorknob. If you have one of the long doorknobs, you can do that too. Just make a square so that it fits right over there. So don't think if you have French doors that barn doors are not an option. And I will put a link to all of the hardware and the bracket runner at the top there in the description box below. And what's neat about this is that when you open the doors, as long as you have a flat picture on either side, you still can decorate there too. So I've gotten a lot of questions about my bedspread, and it's actually a duvet cover, and this is the brand that it is. I got that also on Amazon. I will have that linked below as well. And then just moving around, I got this picture from my mom for Christmas one year from Hobby Lobby. I added the little wreath at the top just by putting a nail towards the top part, and then added that little wreath. And this is the nightstand that we're going to be making over a little bit later. I got that from my mom as a hand-me-down, and it matches the big dresser that goes along with it. Then this, Michael J found this at a junkyard probably about 20 years ago and got it for $30, picked it up without even asking me because he knew I would love it. So we did that a long time ago. And then I have this lingerie chest that I got years ago at a thrift store. And then behind this curtain is our restroom, which I cannot show you because that's the behind the scenes look where everything is. And then I got this beautiful mirror from my grandma from years ago, which I love, and I've painted over it. And so while all of this is going on, let me show you what's happening in the kitchen. I'm so excited about this. Although on the other side, we did have a little nail pop from banging out the backsplash tile. So that's a look at our bedroom and the room that we're going to be doing, since the rest of our house is pretty much in shambles from the work going on in the kitchen. Today I'm co-hosting the Colors of Christmas playlist with my sweet friend Devin at the Freckled Mom DIY, and I'm a little late with everything going on here, but please check out the playlist link below and give Devin and all the other channels who joined in some love and see what colors they're using in their room by room videos. So we're starting with a Dollar Tree DIY, and I'm using 4 nutcrackers, a metal tree skirt, a buffalo check drying mat, a car chamois, and I ended up not using any greenery on this because I didn't think it actually needed any. So the first thing I did was removed all of their hair and goatees, and it's actually stuck in between the two parts of their heads, so you have to just tug on it and pull it out, and I felt like I was hurting him. And then I'm going to take them all outside, and I'm using my matte white for 2 of the nutcrackers. And I'm just going to paint those completely white, and then I'm using also the matte black for the other 2 nutcrackers. And I took these all out to my painting station and put them on my little Lazy Susan so that I could get all sides of their little bodies. So then I took each one, and on the black ones I'm going to use my white paint pen to give them a little bit of cutie patootiness. And I'm just doing different shapes and buttons and straps, but keeping them in that black and white color theme. And this is really fun to do because you can just do whatever you want. I pulled up Pinterest to look at different nutcrackers and see what kinds of uniforms they had, and then just went with it. And of course, if you're not doing black and white in your decor, do whatever colors suits your fancy and that you're decorating in this year. Last year, I did some nutcrackers. Was it last year or the year before? I don't remember now. But I did some in pinks and greens and then added some rhinestones. So if you do the black and white, you could glam these up easily by adding some pretty clear rhinestones from the Dollar Tree. Just whatever you want to do. You could add ribbons. The possibilities are just endless. And then of course on the white ones, I'm going to use my black paint pen to make all those accents and details. So once you're completed with your therapy time and have your I keep wanting to call them soldiers, but they're nutcrackers. Once they're all done, you're going to take your drying mat and cut out one of the corners and make that into a cone, and that's going to be the little gnome hats. Now I'm going to take the hair that I pulled off of their little heads and I'm going to turn it around so that it becomes their beards and glue that on the back. And then I took a teeny little styrofoam ball from that foam filler stuff that they have at Christmas time and use that as their nose. So I did 2 of the hats in the buffalo check, and then I turned it on the other side and made 2 of them in the black, and then just assembled all 4. And I didn't even hot glue these onto their hat. Once I got them to the right size, they were snug as a bug in a rug. So now I'm going to add some gingham ribbon on the bottom of the black hats, and here's again where you can have a lot of fun just being creative and adding some greenery or berries or anything you want to make these work in your particular decor. I decided to just keep mine a little bit more simple this time, and I didn't add any greenery, but I will add a little snowflake from a Dollar Tree clothespin garland. So I just hot glued one to the top of the buffalo check hats and then one in the middle of the black hats. So now for the base, I'm using a round sign, and I'm going to attach that to the bottom of my metal tree skirt using a ton of hot glue. And you can see I spray painted the skirt white, but this gives me a floor for our gnomes to sit on. And then I took some empty ribbon spools and glued them to the bottom so that my gnomes would stand at different levels. And then once I got them arranged how I wanted, I hot glued the soldiers. I guess they are soldiers because they have weapons. Anyway, I arranged those how I wanted, and then I hot glued them onto the spools. And since their hats are a little tall, I staggered the front and the back ones so that the back guy's uniform still showed. Now I'm taking that white chamois car towel thingy and just tucking it all around their boots and the bases and shoving it in between the spools and the tree skirt, and that didn't need any hot glue either to stay in place. Then I took some more black and white gingham ribbon and made a sweet little bow and gave it 4 tails and poked the extra chenille stem into the space between the skirt and the spools, and then I'll dovetail the ends. And then finally I used a Sharpie to give it that enamel wear look. So I just dragged my pin around the top and the bottom little rolled up pieces of the tree skirt, and I thought that was so super cute. I was going to write something on the front of the tree skirt just because I like to have words and stuff, but I knew where I was going to be placing this was next to a sign that I had gotten from the Target dollar spot. So I didn't want to have too many words together, but you can do whatever you want for where you're putting yours and conform it to your own style and colors. And here it is all finished, and I'll show this again once I put the room all together, but right now we're on to our next Dollar Tree DIY. And for this we're using 2 of the cutout snowflakes, 2 12-inch wreath forms, and the mop pads. You could also use again the car chamois because it did take a total of 7 mop pads to cover both of my wreath forms, so the car chamois will cost a little bit less. So now I'm using this method that my friend Karen at the Loft Home Decor on Instagram showed a while back, and I used it in another DIY back in the spring, and I love it so much. So thank you, Karen, for all of your creative wisdom. So I'm just painting on my chalk paint onto a wood piece, and this had some black paint on it from I think the last time I did this method, which was really a happy accident because it made some of that black show through the white, and it was just so pretty and blended, and I didn't even have to do anything, and I didn't even mean to do it, but it came out perfectly. So after I got both of my snowflakes completely painted, I'm going to take my mop pads and just start gluing them on to my wreath forms. And the good thing about this is that when you piece it together, it's so fluffy that you can't even see the seams. And I actually had some scrap mop pad left over, so I didn't really use that 7th one. I just had some in the scrap box, and so I was able to piece it together. And to make it go around that inside curve, I just made a little slit with my scissors so it would mold to that circular shape on the inside. So then to attach my snowflake, I was going to use some white string, but then I remembered there was the existing jute twine that was attached to the snowflakes. So I just used that, and since it's so fluffy, you can't see it if you just move the little fibers around and cover it up. So now I'm going to take some of my buffalo check ribbon and attach that to the top, but I'm going to have to measure it first to see where it's going to hang on my barn doors. So then I just took some strips of ribbon in different patterns of black and white, and I'm going to stack those on top of each other, and I just made sure that I did kind of a dark ribbon and then a light one, a dark one, and then a lighter one, and I'll just stack that and repeat the same pattern on the second set. So there's a total of, I think, 8 here. I don't know, I'm not counting, but anyway, after I get them all together, I'm going to fold them in half to find the center and then use a chenille stem to wrap them all tightly, and then I'll dovetail the edges, and then I'll attach these to my wreaths once I get them up and hung on the doors. So Michael J is always my built-in ladder, and he took the ribbon and measured to see how long it needed to be, and then we cut that off, and then he'll attach it to the top of my barn doors using a tack. And again, I'll show you this all at the end once we put the room together. So another hack that I really wanted to try, this was a little bit bigger than I had expected, but I had to try it at least one time. So the first thing is, it was so super heavy, I almost couldn't get it myself. And at the top, it was so dusty, I was sneezing, it was a mess. But I wanted to be able to make this a little bit reversible, not a little bit, I wanted to make it fully reversible so that I could have a sign for Christmas without messing up my original sign that I use all year round. So I pulled off the back and used a screwdriver to get the staples out, and then I took it outside and sanded it down so I could get all of the ickies off. And then I painted the inside with my Waverly White chalk paint. Now the inside of this side has the staples sticking out around the edges, so I knew I had to cover that up so that the staples wouldn't show, but that's what keeps the inside portion of this sign together. So after the white paint was dry, I painted my frame using some Waverly wax in antique, and then used my Silhouette Cameo 3 to cut out the words, "Oh come let us adore him, Christ the Lord." And this was so big I had to use 3 separate sheets to get it onto my sign. But it's also super fun to weed out because you're taking the insides out and you don't have to be too terribly careful. I did have an issue though, because like I said, it was so big, getting my transfer tape on there. And because the stencil tape was at the end of the roll, it wanted to curl up on me and it had a couple of bubbles. So I did have some issues with that, but it was okay. It's still pretty. And then once I apply it to my sign, I'm just going to use my Waverly chalk paint in ink and a sponge dauber and just paint that all in. And then I'll do that with the top part, which I put over to the left that says, "Oh, come let us." And then for the bottom where it says Christ the Lord, I'm going to place that over to the right. So now because the D hooks were on the front of our new sign, I needed to figure out how I was going to hang it without messing up the front of my original sign. So I had Michael J cut a big long piece of wire and attach it to those D rings from the front, but then run it through the back of my sign so that it's actually going to be hanging on that wire, if that makes sense. And then we'll cover those up and be strategic about that so that it doesn't show once it's hung up. So now to cover up those staples, I just used some Dollar Tree garland and hot glued that all around the inside of my frame. And I'll be able to turn my sign around when the Christmas season's over and it'll still be in the back and it won't be seen. I am going to add some more items to the corners and a ribbon at the top or a big bow, but I'll be able to take that off and then just add it again next year, or even change it into different colors if I change it. So now I'm going to make a big perky bow, and I'm just using the twisting method, and I made 4 loops on each side, and every time I pass by the back I'm going to twist it and then make another loop. And for a full bow tutorial, that's hard to say, I have a video linked in the description box below where I go through this a little bit slower in case you want to check that out. And then once I have all my loops attached, I'm going to take a big piece at the very bottom to make super, super long tails to go across the top and down the sides of my sign. And that's going to cover up our D hooks from the front. And then I used a piece of paddle wire to attach it all together, and then I'll foof out my loops and hot glue that to the very top of my frame. And that's not going to show because when this is hung up, you can't even see the top. That's a good thing because otherwise you would have seen all kinds of dust on my sign. And then once I get my perky bow attached to the top, I'm going to take those big long tails and I'll just hot glue them onto the frame or onto the greenery, wherever I want it, because I want it to just kind of flow through and be all pretty. So now I'm going to take some ornaments from the Dollar Tree, and these are those star ones, but they have little round things at the top and bottom. So I'm just using my scissors to cut those off so that it doesn't look like it's just an ornament that I'm using. And I'll hot glue 2 to one side and then 3 to the other side. And I'll be able to, again, to take these off when it's time to turn this sign around. And then I wanted to take advantage of the lip that's on the bottom or the frame itself. So I took a couple of the white bottle brush Christmas trees and cut off the backs and the little platform so that it would be flat and go against my sign. And then I just attached those with some hot glue at the bottom right next to each other. And then I took my white chalk paint and snowied up all of my greenery. And this was fun to do because I didn't have to be careful. I was okay with making the frame look nice and Christmassy and snowy. And the backboard is already white, so that made it super easy. And then I just had Michael J hang it up again, and this time I was letting him do it because it was way too heavy for me. But I really love how this turned out, and I think it's such a great idea to use the back side of our pictures so you don't have to go out and buy a brand new one. So now our next stop is redoing this nightstand that I got from my mom. It was her old one. It matches our big dresser, which I did paint gray a while back. But because I was seeing all of the colors with the different pretties I was getting ready to put in here, this brown just stands out, kind of like our kitchen cabinets, which are being finally done. And so I'm going to get this ready to paint. And I just pulled off the stickers from the side where I have my charger cords hanging and a basket for our remote controls. And then I'm just going to take the handles off of the drawers and then go at it. Make sure it's really clean. You don't have to sand it or anything. I want that distressed look. So I just went over it with one coat and let some of that pretty brown show through. Again, I don't like the fully brown color, but I did like it showing through. So it's still a pretty brown. So I just used my Annie Sloan paintbrush, and you can get these online. Or if you have an Annie Sloan stockist in your city, you can get those from there. These are about $40, and one of my sweet friends had gifted this to me, and I've had this now. This is going on my 3rd year. It's a little beat up, but I still love the looks of it, and it's super easy to use. So once I get all of my nightstand painted, I'm going to take my sanding block and just go along the edges and anywhere that it would be normally worn and just get that nice and distressed looking. And oh, I just love how this turned out. And it completely made over the whole piece. And now that I've seen how pretty it is, once I got done with it, I'm going to do the large dresser too, but that'll be for another video. So I'm just going to replace all the hardware and put the drawers back in, move it back into place, and then start decorating the rest of the room. So just a little bit of paint can transform any corner and make it lighter and brighter. This actually only took me about 20 minutes, and I think it's such a transformation. And I only used about a half, maybe even a quarter of the bottle of paint. I might add a top coat of wax or something to protect the finish, but I'm just going to wait and see if it really needs it. So another way I lightened the area and made it easier to decorate in my black and white theme was to turn my duvet cover over onto the back side. And then I added 3 white Euro pillows from Target. And I got this big buffalo check pillow and a blanket you'll see in a second from the Goodwill. And our Goodwills get odd lots and discontinued items from Target. I don't know if all Goodwills get them, but they still have the tags on them. So you may want to check that out. And then I got some other accent pillows from the Target Dollar Spot. The red truck pillow I got last year at Ross's. And I love how my bed looks all dressed up for Christmas. So then I put a little tree in the corner. And if your wall hangings don't match with your color theme, you can easily replace them with something that does. I put an old window frame in its place. And then to decorate my tree, I'm first using some deco mesh from the Dollar Tree in black and white buffalo check. So when I add any kind of mesh or ribbon, I use the wire branches of the tree itself to attach it. And I just make little foofs and gather it and attach it again, making it kind of flowy and free, letting it do its own thing. And then when I get to the bottom, I'll just move over and start going back up the tree. And then when the spool's empty, I'll connect the next roll at the same branch where my roll ended, if that makes sense. So I didn't have any thick white ribbon, but that's okay. You can use some of Dollar Tree's grip liner and cut it down into the width that you want. And these aren't even really good scissors, so it's super easy to do. And then I just added that to my tree like I did with the mesh. So knowing I was going to be using black and white in our room, I've been collecting my ornaments and goodies, and I kept them all together until I was ready to do this. And it really all started when I found these black and white buffalo check ornaments. I guess this would be gingham because it's a little bit smaller. And they were at the Dollar Tree, and they also had them in black and red. So if you're looking for some, they might still be there. So the first thing I always do when I'm decorating a tree is to separate my ornaments. And I'll put one kind on at a time so that they're evenly distributed throughout the whole tree and there's not just a cluster of one in one spot. I also cut off the hangers that come on them and replace those with the Dollar Tree greenery stems that I cut in thirds. That way you don't see those green wire hooks, and it also poofs up your branches in the process. And then once my ornaments are on, I added a Dollar Tree star I made in my last video to the top, and it's done. Now, I strongly dislike looking at cables and cable boxes, so I always try to camouflage those, but you do have to leave the cooling vents open at the top of any cable box or electronics, so just put items that won't cover those completely. And then to cover my dumb TV cords, I try to find something that will make those go away as well. I wish I knew an electrician that could hide those behind the wall. Michael J. And here's our finished room in the pretty black and white. I love how everything turned out. And I'll show you what it looks like at night when all of the pretty lights are glowing. I also added some greenery from Hobby Lobby to the top of our headboard, which also has lights. And oh my goodness, I just love our room so much, and I hope you like it too. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and let me know what you think. I'm way behind on my comments again, but I appreciate everyone's love and patience. Thank you, Devin, for letting me co-host with you and being such a sweetheart with me. Please remember the real reason for this season. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!